Welcome back to Brave Ideas Friday 5. We are back in the city of London again. It's summertime in London, so we got the short sleeves, got sunglasses over here, can't wear them right now. And I'm here with Colin Black from Global Office Partners, who represents the voice of the customer often as a tenant rep for enterprise companies taking office space both in traditional and flex office environments. So I have big questions for you today, Colin. Obviously, as the voice of the customer, you see a lot of changes in the last couple of years, and especially with more enterprise looking at flex as a viable alternative. So what would you advise landlords today that wants to attract enterprise customers? How should they prepare their buildings?
So for me, I think focus on what the client actually wants. Enterprise clients have a flight to quality. They want good quality space, service, hospitality, but also one of their biggest hurdles is attracting talent and retaining talent. Most younger people have grown up through university having communal space, having bars, having functional space that they can use as and when need. They're now living in buy-to-let apartments that have that same functionality there. They don't want a white desk in a white box. They want a community feel, and they want that to run through their entire life.
I love that university analogy. We've talked about that before, and I think the universities do a good job of bringing that community together. You've got different organizations within the school that brings that community together that are both part of the school and just part of the community. If we look at it from the CFO's perspective or human resources perspective within a larger company, if they're looking at a landlord, what is it that they're looking for beyond the community?
I think they're looking for honesty. In a lot of serviced office contracts, there can be a lot of hidden costs. What my clients hate is whenever I do a contract review across multiple operators and we find an additional £500 or £600 a month of a potential cost being incurred that they were not told about and didn't know about. What they love is whenever an operator is completely transparent with them, including the indexation on the annual uplifts and what happens with the what-if scenarios. So we stress test all of those contracts and ask all of those questions on behalf of the client, because that's the thing that's important to them. One thing they really hate is whenever it comes up to the end of a 12-month contract and they get a letter through the door or an email with a 40 to 100% uplift. It just puts them off completely. They want a long-term relationship. Really, the reason they're moving to serviced is because they want it usually off their balance sheet to show the business more profitable, but just to have that flexibility. It's not necessarily that they don't want a conventional lease. They're choosing a serviced operator for the hospitality and for the clarity and the certainty and cost as well.
Well, certainly they want to choose the serviced office, the co-working environment for the amenities in the community, and they don't want to sacrifice the flexibility, they don't want to sacrifice the pricing transparency. It's not a very nice surprise in a year down the road, so it's developing that long-term relationship. Now, a lot of landlords are looking to attract enterprise customers by sort of bridging the gap between a traditional office and a co-working space by offering them very popular managed office product here in London. Are you seeing this happen across the other regions as well? And what does the managed office product look like from your customer's perspective?
Yeah, so globally it's happening. Examples in many different locations, but generally what my clients will be looking for is a managed floor so that it looks as if it's a conventional lease. They want their name on the ground floor reception and they want their name outside the lift whenever you get off that floor, but they also want the ability for their younger team and the kind of social aspect of it to use the spaces downstairs for phone booths, for ad hoc team meetings, for town halls, and for receiving clients as well. Yeah,
when we take a managed office product, we don't want to sacrifice the community, but at the same time, we don't want to have our office footprint not be efficient, so it's important to continue to have those communal areas outside of the managed office footprint. Now, I know earlier we were talking about the concept of companies that are growing, going into co-working, growing into managed, and then eventually into the building. Are you seeing more landlords embrace that mindset of having the co-working space be a feeder for future tenants in the building?
Absolutely. Landlords are starting to realise that service space is almost an incubator for growing businesses, and almost every single small business, myself included, starts in serviced office space, but eventually we graduate into potentially larger serviced office space and eventually maybe a conventional lease as well. So it's almost the life cycle of office property, and I think landlords are starting to kind of realise that that's the future of this market.
And do we flip that when it comes to enterprise? Enterprise taking a full floor, but then obviously things change more dynamically today for everybody. So are we seeing enterprise companies coming down from a full floor into flex?
Regularly as well. What we'll also sometimes see is sometimes an enterprise customer will come to me and say, look, we've got a floor here that we're trying to get an operator into. They'll take over part of their lease for the remaining 10 years of their term. They'll leave the conventional lease downstairs, but then it leaves them space to flex up and flex down if possible as well. Whereas historically, that floor would just be sitting empty and they'd be paying the rates on it as an empty floor. So they are starting to think outside of the box now, which I think is a great thing.
I remember in Manchester a few years back, there was a tri-party deal between, I believe it was Amazon, Deloitte, and WeWork at the time. Colin, my final question for you is, if you were advising a landlord today that wanted to attract enterprise to their buildings in today's environment, with flex and hospitality and amenities becoming the quality norm, what is the one thing you would tell them to start with?
Start with your team and your community there. Almost think about it as like a hotel experience, because that's what people are looking for. I keep on getting this phrase coming up, hotelification of serviced office space. People expect to have a level of service whenever they go into a serviced office for them and for their visiting clients. More and more of my enterprise clients are requesting that whenever they come to me with a requirement. So I would say focus on that as an initial point. Everyone can do a box within a box. We're looking for something a little bit different, and service is the thing that can make it different.
Well, hotelification, hospitality-led workplaces, buzzwords that we've been hearing for recent times, and I think we'll continue seeing being delivered and deployed across many assets. May not be right for everyone, but many of them it will be. So, Colin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Caleb.
Look forward to our offline conversations. Thank you for tuning in. Until next week, take care of yourself.